This week, I show Garrett a forking good time.
And I try and control all of my gushing juices.
I am Kyle.
And I'm Garrett.
And we watch anime. Garrett, this week we are taking an off-ramp on our journey to a gourmet world, full of edible alligators, gorillas, and eagles. All it takes to get to this new culinary experience is to fistfight to the death with our bare hands. That's right, we discuss the uber-fun, nutrient-dense, muscle-man shonen adventure anime Toriko. But before we get Garrett, what are new fans going to be expecting from this show?
Guts, 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 gobble guts.
That theme song is going to have to get a clear take from us because it's aggressive.
Maybe right here.
That would be a good place to start, right? I felt aggressed by the theme song. I think it's a good place to start, so maybe we'll go there. But first, let me give a quick shout out to what the show's about. So this show, Toriko, the one we're going to be talking about, is a manga that ran from 2008 to 2016. The manga is complete, and the anime came out in 2011. I've read the whole thing, and I've also watched the anime all the way through. As kiddyish as it was, I just couldn't stop watching it because it's so ridiculous, but it's also really fun. In fact, I wrote a quote that I saw off of Anime News Network, and what they called it an in-your-face action story riding on the back of a gastronomic fetch quest. And I think that's such a really good thing to say. It's really like the plot doesn't really go too far. It's just like, get this thing. Get this thing. Now we're going to get this thing. Punch this thing until you get to this thing. It's a lot of that. And I would say if I was to put this show into like a one-word explainer, it's extra. It's extra everything. It's extra weird in its logic. It's extra, muscly. It's extra, full of yelling and all that stuff. But give me an idea of what you thought about the show that I introduced to you, Garrett.
If everyone knew Ryu from Street Fighter, had an insatiable appetite for mutant Godzilla-like creatures, it's pretty much tie a bow on it.
Yeah. Toriko is, weirdly enough, it's a pretty popular up there anime. In fact, I remember when I was explaining to you the show that when I was telling you to watch it on Crunchyroll, I said, don't watch the first episode on Crunchyroll because it got a tie-in with One Piece on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, so I did anyway.
Oh, good. Just to show you, and I think didn't have him eating poop because he thought it was a devil fruit, but then he had any.
No, I don't believe so. First of all, if we can just take a moment to recognize Nami's breasts.
Yes, of course. Guts.
Yeah. No, but they go to this like Hungry Island or Hangri-La or something.
The names are effing ridiculous, and we're gonna have it.
And like meat is growing on trees, and they come across these creatures called barbecue pigs that are somehow barbecuing themselves while they're alive,
just like rotisserie themselves, like and just rotating in place.
When Luffy and Toriko and Sanji and everyone has to battle them, Toriko's like, no, if you fight with them too long, they'll overcook themselves and the meat will be tough. So you have to knock them out with one punch so that they're still tender.
So then One Punch Man came out and he says, I got this one. And he one punch for barbecue.
Yeah, they really missed an opportunity to have 3 shows in one year.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question, he says Toriko says to Luffy, oh, you're pretty gummy, and he's like, yeah, I ate the gum devil fruit, and he's like, oh, was it delicious? And he's like, nah.
It is. So we want to give it a little space to talk about what the show is about. So we follow this man named Toriko.
Right, and Toriko is what's known as a gourmet hunter.
Okay. Right.
So what's really interesting is when this show opens every episode, we always talk about these time periods in Japan, like, it's
Edo,
the time of the Edo period or whatever. And we're we're apparently in the period of gourmet,
Mm-hmm.
where everyone is basically living to find a rare gustatory delight. And we learn from that crossover episode that there are 300,000 rare flavors.
Eat that, Baskin Robbins.
Toriko has discovered 2,000 of them.
Oh, wow.
And so he's on his way to discovering as many as possible. And all of these gourmet hunters, because there's a lot of them, right? Think of them as bounty hunters, okay?
Right.
And they're all after all of these rarities. But instead of rhino, well, it's a rhino mixed with a griffin mixed with a snake that has tender meat. Like, they always say, like, fatty tuna. Everything is like fatty tuna. But anyway, each of these gourmet hunters has a goal to create what's known as a life meal, which is like, think about going to the French Laundry, which is like a 3 Michelin star restaurant that Gavin Newsom, governor of California, just got in trouble for eating at in a group larger than 10 in Napa. But anyway, you know, you go and it's like $600 a person, and it's like a 15-course meal, and it's just the most intense, amazing flavors you've ever had. So all of these gourmet hunters, their goal throughout their journey is to create this incredible, incomparable menu.
And if you would think the word hunter would imply that you go with a crossbow or a bow and arrow or a gun, you know, normal weaponry that you would use for hunting. Nay, that's for chumps, my friend. Toriko has his own way of hunting, Garrett. Now, I really want you to talk me through how Toriko gets his hands on these beasts and he gets the day and he seizes the ingredient.
So a lot of it is very much a punch battle. And one thing I noticed
is it's just a lot of fist fighting.
Toriko takes his hits, but he could be in the middle of a desert, no trees, nothing. And when he gets hit by the beast, the anime will have him break through like 3 walls.
That reminds me, right? You're right, because if you watch like Dragon Ball Z, they all take place in like deserts usually, but for some reason when Goku gets knocked back, he finds the one rock that's like in the middle of this like open desert. They're like lazy to draw everything else, but once he needs to go through something, that is so true. And it's funny that the noob found that before me, man. I'm really proud of you.
They're like, well, it's kind of like, I liken it to when I went to France and I went on the TGV, which is their high-speed train. It goes 200, 300 kilometers an hour. When you're flying through the countryside on this train and you see field, you don't perceive how fast you're going until there is a monument, a building, a cow, a car, something that when you go by it, you're like, oh wow. It was that fast. So I guess if you kept having a guy get punched and you didn't have the rock or tree that he was bursting through to perceive,
you wouldn't know the velocity by which the man.
But so I don't know where we are.
Where we are is Toriko has his 2 mitts.
Oh, yeah.
To seize on these animals. Normally you would think, oh, this man's gonna, like, what does he do? Does he punches them? Yeah, maybe. Or does he, like, choke these animals to death? How does he go about it, Garrett? Because I think it's important.
He gets very Lenny from Of Mice and Men, and he's like, no screams, no screams.
He just like that Key and Peele sketch where he just snaps everybody's necks. He's just snapping necks across. No, that's not how it happens. It's even better.
So after pretty ordinary punch fights for shonen flair, first of all, and this is what gets me, he goes, I'm going to show you the power of human, and he turns into a demon.
Well, that's his intimidation, Garrett. So in this world, one of the conceits of this world is that when you are an intimidating presence, your aura actually takes the form of something. Right. And it's not actually like a hypothetical demon that you are portraying. You literally like are a demon in your intimidation.
Right.
That's scary.
So his aura is the demon that any 8th grade fan of Megadeth would draw in their notebook. And he turns into this demon and he goes, knife. Or no, I'm sorry, no, fork.
Garrett, know your culinary thing. It's fork first, always.
And you see sort of this like graphic overlay of his left arm as of a fork, and he goes, knife! And then his right arm turns into a knife. So I'm like, okay, so he's going to cut, stab, chop. But then the part that kills me is he like goes, ching, 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 ching.
Yeah, he does it, and he's like sharpening his hands that are metaphorical cutlery.
Right. And then basically he does a 1-2 punch and it kills almost every animal.
Right. So this show's insane, and there's a lot of it's like one of the many things is that the show has the craziest logic in it. It's ridiculous. It's so extra that it circles the world, and it comes back to like, well, this is actually a lot of fun, and I don't care what the logic is. But when you really dive into it, like we do on this show, you start to realize how absolutely ridiculous it is. I just also want to say that it's really funny to think of a guy, even though like there's visual representation in anime, just like running at a large beast going like, ah, with like a hook hand and a flat slice hand. Like that's what it actually would be.
Right.
But, yeah. So, okay. So we're now talking about his buddy. I call him a little piss boy, but he is
Komatsu.
The Komatsu. He's the dingleberry on Toriko's ass.
Named after a tractor.
He's Toriko's dingleberry, always hanging on him, not really serving a purpose. You know,
right, and everyone bows down to this big because remember we're in the age of culinary cuisine.
Move over G8, move
forget
over
G8.
League of Nations,
forget the FBI,
forget anything.
IGO,
the IGO is the authority. There's like, a food bureau of investigation.
Right, and all these creatures that they chase after have these ratings as to how difficult they are to chase.
Right. Yes, and it's usually so. Let's take a second for that too. So when an animal is ranked 1, that means it takes 10 people to kill it
with shotguns.
So that's the first one.
Yeah, that seems like a really high starting point.
That bar is insane.
Like, what is a deer?
But it's got to be like a cheese deer. It can't just be a deer. It's got to be a deer that's also another food. Like it has to be like a mayonnaise goat. That's the way this show works. And I don't know.
By the way, I love that the actual show is crossbreeding creatures, but you're crossbreeding creatures with condiments.
Yeah,
you're like the mustard seal, the
and
ketchup dolphin.
They're all like portmanteaus too. So it's like the ketchup parrot. That kind of stuff. But
sea bass crayfish, I think we're introduced to.
And then so we get to and then also level 5 would be a creature who a tank would have to couldn't take on, or would it be like a close fight with a tank? So knowing that that's our first episode is above that.
Which, by the way, everyone, the International Gourmet Organization has tanks. And yes, to your point, and you're going to say, Garrett, this is Shonen.
Right.
Welcome to Shonen.
Right.
They don't know how to build because they start out with a nuclear bomb and then they're like, well, we can only get bigger from here.
You're right. The ramping on the show.
Because the first episode, not even the first episode, the first crossover episode, they had like 3 boss battles. How do you sustain that?
Well, he doesn't have a king of the... It's not like he also has like a pirate crew either, like Luffy does. Like Luffy's like, I have this boss, you have the second boss, and then Sanji takes on the third boss. This is like just Toriko with his cutlery, and the other heavenly kings, I guess, is the only thing you really get. Yeah, ching, 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 ching. Claw hand. So, so Komatsu and Toriko, Komatsu thinks he's awesome. He wants to hang out with him. He's also a really good chef, apparently. And so they go on this adventure to find all the ingredients. What's crazy is that eventually I'll tell you what the goal of the show is, like what's the king of the pirates of this shonen anime. I'll get there eventually, but but I also want to go into what the conceit of the show is. Another one of the conceit of the show is that this show is both terrifying but also like supposed to be like fantasy. So it's like, imagine a world in which every flavor you so desire springs forth from the earth like manna from God. But it also will probably pump you full of venom or spit acid on you or claw your face off. and there's no like it's not like you can go to the grocery store and pick up a pound of ham. No, you have to be like, oh, you want that, Garaga gator? Well, go out there and freaking headbutt it to death or something like that.
So to your point, real quick, because you mentioned the first boss in the first real episode, the Garaga gator.
Let's go through the episode a little bit. Yeah.
And I kept reading it as garage gator, and I kept thinking there's going to be like an alligator with like a garage door mouth.
Okay, Garrett. So Garaga is Garaga or however it said it is like a grumble noise that the alligator makes. So it's like saying like it's like a grater, like that kind of stuff.
I see.
It's for kids. The show's for kids. So so we got to the first show. We saw the Garaga gator, which I thought was funny the first, and I didn't realize till like the third time seeing it, is that it also shot leeches out of its mouth, which reminded me of the Simpsons episode where he's like, what are you going to send? The dogs? The bees? The dogs that bees in their mouth, so when they bark, the bees fly out? That's what I thought about when I saw that. I was like, it's the gator. Or are you going to send leeches? Or are you going to send me the giant alligator with leeches in his mouth, so then it growls and shoots leeches out? That's what I went through for the first episode. And Toriko gets what he needs. So let's go. So the first episode really just kind of sets up everything. You saw the previous part. Let's go to the second episode where we talk about finding the rainbow fruit. What is that? Tell me about that episode, Garrett.
So at this point, we kind of get introduced to these like secret agents who ask the gourmet hunters to go on these specific tasks, and Toriko is clearly king of the hill, king of the mountain.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of this stuff on his own, and just kind of like, he's a very Arnold Schwarzenegger like character where he doesn't need the system, but every once in a while he'll come back in and help the system. And so they ask him if they can help him get this rainbow fruit, which rainbow fruit is extinct in the wild. Which, by the way, if you're not familiar with rainbow fruit, Kyle, it can take on at the same time 7 different color and flavor profiles,
depending on temperature and weather.
Right.
Yes.
So they've been
apparently its juice is so sweet that it's like they use like this clearly was meant for small children because they exaggerate about literally everything. It's like it tastes like 4,000 fruits. Hey, I don't know if there's 4,000 fruits. Period. Secondly, that would be an insane assault on the brain just to like think about just eating all of the fruit at once. But so another thing about this rainbow fruit is that it takes 1 drop. If you put 1 drop in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, it'll make
a mellow fruit flavored drink.
That's how juicy this juicy fruit is.
But here's what I don't get. So this fruit is extinct in nature. So they put it in sort of this like biosphere, this protected area to grow it. They have put concrete walls up that are like 100 feet tall. And yet somehow on the inside of this controlled nature, they've allowed these like bad gorillas from Congo that have been hit by a ginormo ray
with 4 Goro arms from Mortal Kombat,
and they don't eat the fruit, but all other animals are attracted to the fruit, so they sleep at the base of the fruit to kill and eat all the other animals.
Correct. And they're called troll kongs, so that gives you an idea what they're called.
He shows up at the compound and he says, I really need to get in there. And the guards are like, hey man, you hear that noise?
Yeah.
There's a troll Kong on the other side of the wall. Give it a minute. We need to wait for him to pass so that we can open up the gates. And he says, don't worry, I got this. And he punches a hole through the wall. And he's like, hey, here's my entrance.
And so now they're easily going like, oh crap! There's like crazy predators able to get out of this hole in the wall that Toriko has sauntered himself through. Another thing about Toriko is he's also like the beefiest man that's ever lived in the entire world. He's so beefy. Like that shows you exactly like how what age this show is for. Because like once you get like to teenage years, like they're a little bit more edgy, a little bit slender. When you're like in the younger age, all the men have to be like Hulk Hogan. They all have to be like beefy characters.
It is both for kids and for bars called the Toolbox.
That's another question we're going to try to solve here. So I want you to put a pin in that.
Right. And one more thing about episode number 2, we're introduced to what appears to be a third character. So we've discussed Toriko, and we've discussed, which I want to keep calling Tobiko, like the flakes on my sushi. We're introduced to Kamatsu. And now we're introduced to the female lead. Is her name Erin?
Tina.
Tina. I think it's Nina.
It's
Nina
Tina.
Or Tina.
Yeah.
And she is a reporter for the gourmet news channel. And she sneaks in through this gaping hole in the concrete wall to film him capture the rainbow fruit. And so she is sort of a hanger-on, and she's looking for like her big break, and she's like very two-sided, like very nice on camera, like you would imagine a lot of people. But then behind the scenes, she's very sort of like bloodthirsty, trying to step on that next rung on the ladder.
She also has this weird like verbal tick that she loves, where she likes to say things are like a heaping helping of, or like a big helping of. It's like walking around going like, man, this is 2 scoops of fun. Like she's that kind of person. She has that kind of verbal tick. Yeah. She's annoying. I don't like her all that much, but the adventure stuff is all really well and good. So what's crazy about this episode is that they introduced the idea of knocking, which is don't kill the animal because you don't plan on eating them. Just stick 2 electrified needles into their brain so that they're paralyzed for a long period of time. They won't die or anything like that. It's not like other predators will go eat them. It's just they're sleeping. They're sleeping. You can't, if it's not an animal you don't want a kid to cry about, we're gonna just put him to sleep and stuff like that.
They're very careful to play with that, to say that. I was like, I mean, I agree in the real world, like don't kill an animal unless you intend to eat it or use its components. But Toriko's pretty big on that.
Yes, he is. And then so we get to this fight scene with the troll Kongs. They want the fruit. And the problem is that there's an older monkey that is the alpha male, and then you would think that this thing would go in a big fight like all Shonen does. What he shows is that his intimidation comes out, and it scares the old alpha male away, and so all the other ones bow to him. And so this just shows you that like this show's not going to be all about punching and stuff. It's going to be about being responsible, not fighting for no reason. So,
yes, it is.
So we're going to take a break because we have to give a few minutes to the theme song of this show. We got to give it. It's gatsu space that we need to. As I said, I felt I was being assaulted every time I listened to it, and like it's just like every time that. So for those who haven't listened to it, I'm going to play it right now. Basically, this song is an old Japanese man screaming either the word guts in English or gatsu in Japanese. Now, to them, that's kind of a fun pun because gatsu is like means gobble, gobble, gobble. It's like a sound. It's an onomatopoeia for that. And guts means like to be strong and to be brave. Like they overuse that word. We think it's kind of gross in English, but like there they think it means like I'm a gutsy guy.
But do you have it?
It's very that. But like it's an old Japanese man going like guts, 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 with like everybody biting into stuff at the same time. And I'm just like, I felt like just like jolted. Like I get like kids who've just had sugary cereal watching that would be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch Toriko, but the whole time I was like wincing because it was just so aggressive.
The theme song to this show and the soundtrack was so effing fabulous. It was like it was the most metal thing we've watched. It was
Seriously.
Literally soundtracked by like Megadeth. It was, look, I love Metallica, and there are parts of Metallica 91 and after is hard rock. Metallica pre that, and in particular like Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, not even Kill 'Em All, their first major album, but I felt like you could take Orion or one of their like 9-minute no lyric metal songs and put it behind the show, and it was kind of comforting for a kid who grew up listening to that music a lot,
And it did speak a lot about like being brave and having power and like having that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I can imagine myself as a young kid at Saturday morning cartoons, really feeling like this was giving me strength. I'm looking up to this big, bulky dude. That's the dude I want to be. I want to lift and all that stuff. But it's bonkers. The song is bonkers, and it's very aggressive. And I love it. It's like Toriko can't be in the middle of anything. It's those kind of two things. It's never like just like, hey, let's sit in the middle and just sip some soup, maybe let's have some tea with a little bit of sugar on it. Right. No, it's like, no, we got to fight this pterodactyl, and it's made out of mozzarella. Like,
also, like, everything he kills is so muscular, and I'm like, I think we wanted a little more fatty for the best flavor, guys.
But here's the thing: this show, I think my wife hates this show now, probably not because she's seen it, not because she's heard about it, but because of this show, I talk about marbling more than I used to. Because there was like, oh, look at the marbling, and I never used that word until Toriko came out. So that was one of the things that's in my vernacular now because of it. But yeah, and it also, like as you said, all the meat. It doesn't look like chicken meat. It doesn't look like it. All looks like one beef meat. It looks like
but they have to keep like elevating it. So like one episode, they're like the meat glistens like a rainbow. Which, by the way, two things about meat glisten like the rainbow. One is if you look at like an oil spot on blacktop in the sun, that's the type of like rainbow glisten they're talking about. And the only meat I know that looks like that is the fake roast beef from Arby's. And they're like, oh, the meat, it glistens like a rainbow.
You see like a beefy guy going into Arby's and just like grabbing an au jus and like, God!
I'll take two beef and cheddars,
like
TJ Cinnamon's cinnamon roll.
And you can hear like the intro to the beginning 2 minutes of the show, which we're going to do next, is like though someone once said there were fries that curled like a pig's tail and a jus that was brown. Like I could just see that happening as well. So, so the theme song is nuts. It's very energetic, and the ending it doesn't stop its pace at all with the ending theme either. But after the theme song, what we get to is these kind of interludes in which they introduce ingredients from the gourmet world to get you to realize that this thing is like Candyland, but with beefy muscle men in it. So
right, they're just trying to richen the story, and give you some more background.
So what we're gonna do, Garrett, is we're gonna play a game.
Okay.
And this game is called the Someone Once Said in Toriko World game. I am going to read and here's the thing, your boy went through the first 2 minutes of 50 episodes of Toriko to find you some things that you would actually be able to understand.
Okay.
So know that I did this for you, my friend.
All right.
I didn't watch any of the episodes. I just went right to the first thing, and I went to the guy. It started with Dare Kanahita. So, and I didn't stop, and then I stopped as soon as we're in the gourmet age. But so I'm going to read to you some of these interludes, okay?
Right.
Know that a lot of the answers are going to be portmanteaus, so think about what I say, the clues that I give you, and try to combine clues that I give you, and try to tell me what you think the names of these foods are.
Sure.
I had trouble because some of these things are Japanese puns, so you were never going to get them.
Okay.
Because it would not make sense unless you actually understood Japanese.
Okay.
I picked the ones that were clearly English all the way through. The second thing I want you to say is we're going to discuss whether or not this actually sounds delicious or if it sounds like an actual nightmare, an actual crime against God. Okay. So those are the two things we're going to figure out. You're going to tell me what the ingredient is named, and then we're going to discuss whether or not you would eat it. Okay. The first one is kind of a lob, so let's see how you do it. And I'm also going to play some of the background music as we talk.
Okay.
Someone once said, there are slightly sweet-tasting zucchini mixed in with a deep, rich cheese flavor. What is the name of that food?
Pickle queso?
So I'll give you the hint. It's slightly sweet-tasting zucchini with deep, rich cheese flavor.
I don't know.
Cheezucchini.
Oh, I see what you're doing here.
They're portmanteaus. They're smashing two words together to
Got
make
it.
the word. Cheezucchini. And in the show, there's actually like a rich man with like a sheep, and he's like pulling zucchini, cheese zucchinis. He's like eating it. Like,
Is he the
There's like
chairman from Iron Chef and he bites into a red pepper?
It looked like a white version of that, except in the Swiss Alps and almost like a Ricola commercial. So you're 0 for 1. You get the
All
game
right.
now, so here we go.
All right.
Someone once said, there are turtles with shells made of strawberry, apple, and blueberry tarts. What are they called? Turtles?
Fruit shells?
What was that?
Fruit shells?
They're called Tartles.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyway, where the points don't matter.
So let's go over those two things. Would you eat a monstrosity that was both a zucchini and cheese at the same time?
I don't understand the appeal, but I suppose if someone stuffed a zucchini with cheese, I am not opposed to either of those foods, and the concept of them together is not horrific. I've never been, but I could envision myself one day at a Golden Corral cheese fountain, and I could put a piece of zucchini under it, and I could do that.
Someone once said, there's a land named Fort Worth, Texas. So, Garrett, the next one is Tartles. Would you eat a turtle whose shell is made out of strawberry, apple, and blueberry tarts?
So I've never had turtle, which is a really popular dish for some cultures. That particular mix of protein on a very surface level, unless you're saying like, look, we all had fruit snacks growing up shaped like sharks. Clearly, they didn't taste like fruit and shark. So it depends upon your definition here. But if you're saying like a legit turtle,
it's a legit protein mixed with a dessert.
No, I would not do that. There's very few proteins in fruits that work. The biggest one is Italians putting like prosciutto with melon.
That's
but
right. Some good stuff.
Outside of that, there's not a lot of it.
Well, let's hope something sounds a little bit more to your liking soon. Someone once said, there are juicy spare ribs with spongy lobster meat, giving out a delicious scent when grilled. So this one's spare rib and lobster. What do you think it's called?
Spare rib and lobster?
Yeah. Just put the two words together.
Oh, see, immediately I'm like thinking surf and turf.
No, that would be actually a good idea. No, it's called Spareribster. And you imagine, this is opening up the whole lobster, but instead a spare rib comes out of the meat, of the tamal. Would you eat that, Garrett?
Yeah, I would. Absolutely.
It sounds amazing.
And whether it was beef or lobster, I would just put butter on it. And
it sounds amazing. Yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah. My wife would be allergic, but...
Someone once said, with the light acidic taste of pineapple, mixed together with the deep sweetness of prunes. So you got pineapples and you
prune apple?
I'm going to let you switch it, reverse it. Flip it and reverse it like Missy would do.
Poon?
Gary, would you eat poon?
Yes!
Someone once said, boo! This is such... See, if we're going to be watching kid shows, this is going to be the humor you get out of it, folks. No, pineapple prune.
Pineapple prune. They're so lazy.
No, there's really better ones. I had to pick the ones because I'm like, I didn't want you to get too lost. These are like the obvious.
Okay.
Smack you in the face. And weirdly enough, these are going to be harder now. But I don't know how you go further from poon. Then what's the capture level of poon?
Incels would tell you like 100.
It takes several dudes with shotguns to capture that. All right, sorry. All right, Garrett, I gotta get my voice in now. All right, here we go. Someone once said, on a scorching southern island, grass of hamburger steak grows wild. So this is hamburger steak with island grass.
Mm. Island grass with
Hamburger.
with hamburger steak.
Yeah.
Grass burger.
Ooh, it's the flip the other. Hamburgrass. And in the show, it shows it off as like these like cat o' nine tails, but it's like ground beef coming out of it. Would you eat that?
What world is this?
Apparently, it's a world in which everything smells really bad. If it's just having like raw meat hanging out, falling off of the plants, it would stink so bad. You need to add baking soda to this world. All right, you got 2 more left, Garrett. And I think I want you to get one. And I think you have a chance with this one. Someone once said, "Those that eat on this grass is a cow that comes with it a fragrant smell of barbecue sauce." So
Barbecow?
Yeah! Garrett got it! This is just like the pig that comes like naturally injected with barbecue sauce. Would you eat that, Garrett?
Yes, but I was honestly just thinking of like Chipotle barbacoa, and I'm like, barbecow?
It's actually Brazilian barbecow.
Yeah.
All right, last one. This is probably the hardest one. All right. Someone once said, "There's a jungle made of various flavors of gummy drops, like strawberry, melon, and chocolate." So this is a jungle made of various flavors of gummy.
Gum forest.
Ooh, I think the problem is that the second one goes first usually, or
Okay.
So flip it now.
Forest gum.
Forrest Gump. You know what? I honestly like.
Mama once said the jungle was made of gumdrops.
Chocolate gummies. No, it's Jungummi. It's a jungle, Garrett, not a forest. Well, I'm sure we had fun with this game. At least you got one, Garrett, and it means you need to sharpen up your fork and your knife to become your really good gourmet hunter. So, all silliness aside, it is a lot of that. It's a lot of silly ingredients, a lot of fist fighting, a lot of muscly dudes. And the next muscly dude that we meet is a fortune teller by the name of Coco. And he helps Toriko and Komatsu find the puffer whale. So let's talk about this arc that you ended up on for this season.
Right. So we meet Coco, and I think Toriko, but tell me if I'm wrong, but definitely he is a member of a group called the Four Heavenly Kings.
Both of them are both two of the Four Heavenly Kings. Yes.
Right. But Coco is no longer a gourmet hunter.
No.
His job, Lord knows why, is fortune teller.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to see death's aura around people. So when people are going to die, but he seems to be wrong always. But it also flexes, like, so for example, he sees death around his buddy, or he could, this is a hypothetical, this is not the actual episode.
Mm-hmm.
He could see death around someone because a piano is going to fall on their head.
Right.
But as they're walking down the street, they get a phone call unexpectedly, and they start walking back in the other direction, and the piano falls and they're not there.
Right.
Before he sees that, he'll sense that the aura of death is disappearing from around them. So it's not like a static thing. Mm-hmm. It can change based on.
So he's got really powerful eyesight is his thing. Right. So like Toriko has a good sniffer. He's like Tanjiro for this show.
Right. We also learn about this character who's very much like Roronoa Zoro. Is that he has systematically injected himself with over 500 poisons on numerous occasions. And by doing this strategically, or as W says, strategically, he has developed antibodies for these 500 things. So when something comes at you, a beast or a creature that is vicious or has a poison, he can sort of ignite the poison from within him, and they're immediately scared off because they see that this guy's bad news and they're not really a threat to him, and they're threatened by him.
Yes.
Coco.
Yes. Coco the poison man.
Yes. and on weekends he works on the stages of Miami.
By the way, if you want, so we're going to touch on another topic, which we'll get to the end towards the end of this thing. But to kind of go on the theme of people that might work at the manhole, Toriko is one. Coco is the second Heavenly King. You want to hear what the other two Heavenly Kings' names are?
Sure.
Sunny and Zebra. Now on the stage, Zebra.
well, so I think Toriko is the bouncer, Coco is the performer, Zebra sells ecstasy in the corner, and Sunny is I don't know, is the glory hole. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Sunny yet.
It's wild if you actually got to see this actual Sunny character. He's very feminine. So, but yeah, so one of the four Heavenly Kings, we get to this. So Coco also foresees that this legendary creature is going to come visit this neck of the woods.
The puffer whale.
Puffer whale, yes, and it is famous not because it's like the other animals, which are will murder you. It's legendary in that it's very hard to get to. It doesn't. It only goes to certain spots, and like a fugu or blowfish, if you hit it just right.
It's weird because the only people who've been able to find it are Southeast Asian youth soccer team, are able to get down into those ocean caves. And I know it's a year or two too late. Anyone topical humor out there? No? Is this on?
No,
is this on? But yes, you're right. So the puffer whale is like the Loch Ness monster. Mm-hmm. And he's been seen, so all of the gourmet hunters are on their way to this site to try and catch him. Mm-hmm. And while Toriko's on the train drinking all of the alcohol, for really no reason, there's no reason that they have to explain this. Mm-hmm. He meets another character called Zange.
Yes, it was another. He's up there with Tina as the unnecessary, annoying character that's always in these young shonen shows.
So for those who watch One Piece out there, imagine if Usopp took Lou Ferrigno Hulk level steroids. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, he's pretty. But he's wears caveman attire.
Yes, he in that way he looks like God. Who's the wrestler who killed his wife and just died?
Oh my God! You want me to list them? Superfly Jimmy.
Yes,
Snuka.
Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
I was going to say Chris Benoit. Let's go on the list, Garrett. So they're all trying to get to this puffer whale, and Coco and Toriko. And as you said, we're on the train. He drank all the alcohol, but they met this little tiny shrimp of an old man who asked for booze as well. And I mean, Toriko, you took all the booze, so you might as well give something to this old man. And he does. He happily shares with this old man.
Yeah, and the old man says, I will surely repay the favor. That, kids, is what we call foreshadowing.
It hits you over the head with the foreshadowing in this part.
Because there's a full 2-second pause after he says it so that it marinates.
So that he just stares at the kids in the camera I'll remember this, kids. So they go into the cave and they try to find the puffer whale, and they run into a legendary creature.
Yes.
Known as
the face cobra.
Yes, the face cobra. And it is.
I can't wait for those bakas, by the way. The baka face cobra.
And
I'm sorry, it's a python. It's a python.
It's a python, a demon serpent, I think it was called. And it's poisonous. It's got multiple levels and so they have this large fight with it. And Komatsu goes off on his own because he gets stolen by another person. Mm-hmm. And while Toriko and Coco are fighting this thing and ultimately beat it, once again, this is a purple snake, mind you, whose insides look like the same ham steak that all the other meat looks like.
Right. It's the first time, by the way, that knife and fork don't work. Nope. Because the creature constricts its skin.
It crunches its abs. It's
crunches its abs. It's like Houdini.
Yeah.
And he crunches his abs, and Toriko is unable to penetrate with knife.
Yes. So he needs to use his nail punch, which is hit the same spot multiple times. Spike punch, right? And So Komatsu gets stolen, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh God, I found another one of these dumb demon serpents." And so Toriko gives him a like a popper that is like this humongous explosion popper that like you and I would have loved as a kid. And he like looks like a party popper, but like really big.
Yeah.
Shoots it off, and then like scares away the snake, but like destroys his eardrum, and he dies. So Coco's prediction of Komatsu possibly dying kind of came true a little bit there. So
yeah. For the record, if we're just keeping in the strain of things that would be seen at bars called the manhole or the toolbox, poppers would definitely
the biggest poppers you've ever seen in your entire life. Yes, aimed at the demon serpent.
Anyway, so I didn't catch that part. So Komatsu is kidnapped by this guy who's basically like, I'm going to use you as bait because you're a little kid. We kind of see what's going on because Tina, the reporter, put a camera on Komatsu's helmet. So we see what's going on. And I saw them come around the corner and see the new demon, but I didn't see that pop.
Yeah. Well, it was just to say that he like destroyed his inner ear and like really shattered his eardrum and like Komatsu did. So then along came little man who they gave alcohol to, and he comes in, he knocks the demon out with his knocking gun, and we find out that he's actually an even more famous gourmet hunter named Knocking Master Jiro, which is another man who would be found at the manhole. And hey guys, I'm the Knocking Master.
He dreams of sushi, and
he knocks your farts. I don't
know. The fart knocker. That's the closing act.
Garrett, this is gonna be such a good episode. Like it's gonna be like rated 7 for its humor, like PG-7 for its humor. so Jiro the Fart Knocker Master, he says thank you for the booze, by the way, and he like fills his inner ear and like knocks him back to life. And then that's when we learn that Komatsu is actually really good at a chef. Coco and Toriko find the puffer whales, and now it's like a race to see if they can catch one of these puffer whales without doing it. So it's a lot of that. There's a lot of lather, rinse, repeat for this show, but it's a lot of fun. It's like a lot of adventures.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to worry about in terms of like episodic nature. I feel like you could like jump in between these things. But there's two things I wanted to ask you. The first thing is this show homoerotic?
No.
I know we joked about it, but
yeah, we joked about it, but no, because there isn't like those like, you know, it's not like Coco and Toriko have a conversation in the shower room at the gym while they're both wearing tiny towels. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just strong dudes.
It's just strong dudes.
From the first 5 or 6 episodes.
Right.
That's
and
all
Komatsu and Toriko's relationship seems more like Komatsu seems like the kid avatar to be admiring of Toriko, more than he is like somewhat more than that. But if you were to watch just snip peeks of it, yes, you would say that the show's could be misconstrued that way. So I always thought it was interesting.
Well, they do always end up in some sort of like spit or goo from the monster. And I'll never forget you and I sitting next to one another at the end of the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie where the toothed anus kraken devours.
First spit, it's sea
all over Johnny Depp.
It's sea goo all over Johnny Depp, yes.
Weird thing, legally that kraken's name is Amber Heard.
So another thing that you're going to be looking forward to, Garrett, if you are to continue this show, and I will ask you if you will continue this show, is the following. So after they find the puffer whale, they go to this giant mammoth that's about the size of a skyscraper, go into its body, and pull out meat from the inside of its body. Then they go into the sky, above the clouds, to find corn that is so big that the kernels will smash your head. Then they find a soup made out of several frozen dead animals that, when it melts, creates the best soup you've ever created. Following that, they finally go into an area in which you need to use stardust to create knives that makes Komatsu more powerful. Following that, you find a cola that is found in a pyramid covered by this gorilla monster that only comes out when it cries. Then following that, you go into this thing where you have a garlic that is not real. It kind of exists, but it doesn't. So they use someone's memories in their head so they hunt the memories to find this garlic. And then finally they learn that there is a monster that is 4 beasts all together, and they fight it at the same time, including with Sunny and Zebra and all that stuff, and then a whole bunch of stuff happens. All that is part of the future. And then also I'm going to cap it off with what this show's final goal is. What is Toriko's Pirate King goal that he looks forward to? Is that he wants to eat God.
It isn't to create the perfect menu?
Nope. God is the main dish of his menu. I just wanted that to sit for a second. I'll relieve you a little bit. The name of the ingredient is God. It's not actually God. The name of the ingredient is God. But it's just weird when you don't know that fact to hear like Toriko's like, my main goal is to eat God.
Kyle, I know you're on Instagram. If you ever follow any like third level WWE superstars, like the one that used to have the red hair, like Natalie Eve or Eva Marie or whatever, they all hawk this product called Flavor God.
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe
it's like seasoning that you throw on top of everything that's 0 calorie.
It's God, and it makes Toriko all powerful.
Yeah, that's a trip, man.
So knowing all that, knowing that's the experience you're going to be imagining, will you keep watching Toriko knowing all that?
Absolutely not.
I was thinking on it.
Here's the thing, man, is it's fun, okay? But this world, while a lot of cool food exists in it, one thing that doesn't exist is the word nuance. and there's no stakes.
Right.
Because everyone's always going to be saved always. Like sometimes a show needs to shake you up by killing someone or getting rid of someone you like. Even if you don't kill them, write them off, right? Everything has to be bigger than the last thing. Like you were in the third description and you talked about a kernel of corn that could crush your head. And this is great for Saturday morning stuff because it's supposed to be loud and big and attention catching. In terms of keeping like kids entertained, like they're supposed to like things that are big and loud and fun, and there's no serious consequences. But for me as an adult whose tastes have grown, I need something, some substance, it's like it's a movie it's a rom-com without the moment where they might not make it as a couple. Like, where's the interest, right? There has to be a conflict of some kind. And they just start out so big. Even One Piece, I know it's over 1,000 episodes in, and I'm sure it's absurd. But at least through the first 200, there is a gradual progression of the baddies and how strong people are, and Nami's breasts. I mean, you couldn't have started that show with Nami as a triple D cup. No. She had to start as an A so you could get bigger.
It's the One Piece rule of gradation. Follow Nami's breasts, and that's how big the show should get. But this show is as if like Nami's are so big, they're like Beth from Dog the Bounty Hunter. They're just like in her face, and she's just like floating in space.
Right. She has scoliosis.
So this show, as I said, I watched this in my 20s, and I had a lot of fun. I didn't take it too seriously, so I enjoyed it for that. The action was fun. Everything was great. So I would say you're right. It depends on your age how much you're going to appreciate it. If I introduced the show to you maybe in college, you might have enjoyed it a little bit better than if you are, say, now in your mid-30s.
Oh, I think you and I would have watched it drunk and laughed our butts
exactly.
off the same way we just laughed this past hour.
It's a romp, right? It's a romp. It's fun. And here's the thing, and it is like up there in terms of like weekly Shounen Jump royalty. So it is like part of the vernacular when it's spoken about, like what is going to be up there with, like what's going to go on the Mount Rushmore with, Naruto and
really
Bleach. It's in the week. It's like it's one of the highest rated weekly Shonen Jumps out there. So for me, that's a really good important thing. So if you like anime and you just want to have some fun, you don't want to think too much about this stuff, and you want to be on some sort of substance, whether it be inhaled, eaten, drinking, or otherwise, I think you'll have a blast watching this show because Garrett and I had belly laughs the whole time explaining it. Imagine watching it. So what we're going to go into right now before the show is what we call the Weeb and Noob scores. The Weeb and Noob score is essentially how much of a priority it is to your overall diet to go right away. Like, so if you have a library and with limited space in your bookshelf, how much where would you put Toriko in it? Would you put it at the bottom? Would you put it in a box in the closet? Or would you put it like right at the top where someone can see it right away? So it doesn't mean if it's good or bad or not, because I always want people to watch stuff. Always watch the stuff that we should watch, which we bring up in these shows, because it might be different for you. This is more like, how soon should you watch it? Like, how important it is to watch it. So that's what the score is all about. So for me, I give this show my Weeb score of 8. Now, I know that seems a little kind for my age and for this kind of thing, but I think there is something to be said about, like, if you like Weekly Shounen Jump and you want to get into that stuff, Toriko should be part of your diet. It is like One Piece. It's very much like the early stages of Naruto. It's like the early stages of Bleach. It's not too edgy. It's fun. It's a romp, and you know, you're never bored watching it. So it's like 24. Like, the show goes in 400 different directions, and you're always entertained the whole way. So for that, I give it my 8. Garrett, what do you give it for your Noob score?
6.5.
Okay.
It's like having a peppermint mocha latte from Starbucks for breakfast, and then having it for lunch, and then having it for dinner, and then having it as a snack before bed. It's just candy and sugar over and over and over again. And
eventually you'll get it cavities.
That's not to say it's not fun. Like,
right.
Again, based upon the setting you're in, and maybe I'm being a cynic and a miser and F me, right? You know, right. But I would probably, if you're like Garrett, you're stuck at home because you're quarantined and you should watch it, maybe I'd rattle off a dozen episodes and be like, okay.
Sure, why not? So yeah, I think for everybody out there, love Shounen Jump. It's for you. If you're older and like Shounen is not your jam, this definitely wouldn't be it. Like, it's like you can kind of watch Bleach and Naruto and maybe get into One Piece. This is like, if you don't like Shounen, maybe stay away from it. So as great it is for Garrett to get this 7-course buffet of anime, and it's just as important to hear your thoughts. Is Toriko one of those nutrient-dense episodes that is just way too much for you? Is it just the amount of fun we need in these cynical, dark times? Do you like it for its food descriptions? Do you like it for the action? Or do you think it's really weird to have a bunch of muscle men, choke hold a lobster to death? Let us know in the comments below, because we really want to keep the conversation going. Please follow us on anchor.fm/Wanwa Podcast for all your podcast needs. Rate us there, 5-star. It would really help us get people to watch us, our show, and listen to us online. You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at Wanwa Podcast, as well as Twitter at Weeb_new. So Garrett, I thank you for joining me on this quest. But before we leave, do you have any final thoughts on the show?
Yeah, if this is his fork and this is his knife, I can't wait to see what he uses as a spoon.
So Garrett and I are gonna brandish our hand cutlery. We're gonna be choke holding our lobsters to death. We're gonna be giving our cookie punches a few shots and wishing you all fantastic. See you next week.
Take care, y'all.
Look at all the marbling and juices gushing out of that subscribe button. Sink your teeth into it today.
This might not have been my favorite flavor, Jungummi, but maybe it was yours. Let us know in the comments down below.